Hello, peace and blessings. I'm super excited to share with you the Herbcrafter's tarot deck that I have been working with as part of a deck study inside of the Abundant Life Tarot group. I really love that group. It is a phenomenal space for all things about tarot, oracle, and really like using the cards and cultivating a deep relationship with the cards. It's a beautiful place to join in. So inside the group, Kim of Abundant Life Tarot, who has created this space, often hosts deck challenges, and I was super happy to be able to participate with the Herb Crafters Tarot. So I bought this deck maybe a year or so ago. It's one that's been out for a while, and it had been on my wish list, and I finally was able to get it. The creator of this deck also created the Gaian Tarot, which is absolutely beautiful and something that I would love to add to my collection. The artwork is stunning. So I'm going to share with you the major arcana in this deck, and I'm going to reference the guidebook because it shares some wonderful, wonderful information, and you are going to see why I love this deck so much. I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to work with it through Kim's group and really foster a deep connection with this deck. So stay tuned and let's get into the Herbcrafter's Tarot. All right, so as I promised, here is the Herbcrafter's Tarot. This deck has been out for quite some time. I believe it was published in 2019. I got it, I don't know, maybe a year ago. And when I received it, I thought it was very beautiful, but I did not work with it very much. So I'm part of the Abundant Life Tarot group on Facebook that was created by Kim of Abundant Life Tarot here on YouTube. And in the group, she often does tarot studies. And this month, we began a mini tarot study of the Herbcrafter's Tarot. There was a previous tarot study of this deck that was done in the group. And I was super excited because I wanted to really connect with this deck. So the Herbcrafter's Tarot, the artwork is by Jovhannah Colbert, who also has another deck, the Gaian Tarot. The artwork is stunning. It is so beautiful. I love it. The booklet was written by Letitia Guthrie, and as you can see, this book focuses on herbs. And I will say that in going through the tarot study, I have found a very deep connection with this deck, and it is well thought out and beautifully made. So let's go ahead and I'm going to open the deck. Beautiful green boxing. Here is the guidebook, the Herbcrafter's Tarot guidebook that has a lot of information in it. I'm going to be referencing the guidebook throughout. I did put the cards in order of a traditional deck. However, in the guidebook, they're grouped together by number. So that's going to be very interesting. But I did want to walk through it in the way that I walk through any other deck. So I'm going to have fun doing this. So I'm just going to kind of share my initial thoughts on the cards. They are so beautiful. Like, look at the Fool as the dandelion. And this beautiful, there's a lot of ritual and ceremony included in this deck. I love the monarch butterfly there, the beautiful pebbles that are surrounding this beautiful collection of dandelions. I lived in a house and my backyard was always filled with dandelions, and they are actually a really beneficial herb. We look at them as, well, I won't say we because I don't, but most people look at them as being weeds and of having no value, and they spray all these chemicals and stuff on them to kill them. But they actually are very beneficial from the leaves all the way to the root. Like, you can make a tea out of it, and it's good. It's similar to coffee without the effects of the coffee. The leaves are also good. You can make like salves and ointments. There was something else. Oh, and the milk that comes out of the stem is actually good for digestive issues. So there's a little pouch there, and you can see the little collection of buds inside of that pouch. So that is the Fool, the dandelion. So what I like about the guidebook is that inside, not only does it describes the meaning of, or excuse me, it describes the image of the card, but there's also some wisdom that is at the top. It gives you the card name, the associated herb or flower, and then there's another word for this, but the scientific name, oh, what is that term? Or the official name there. And then it talks about the description, and usually in that first paragraph. And then it gives the meaning of the card, and then it also provides some ways to craft or to work with the herb. So there's so many ways to work with this deck, and I've always loved herbs, plants, herb medicine, plant medicine, all those things. I work a lot with essential oils. And so at first when I got this deck, I don't know, it didn't vibe with me that deeply, but as I read the cards, it's like I can pull so much information about the plant and then think about like what that means, and apply that also to the traditional meaning of the tarot. So one of the members in the group was sharing how, this deck can function as an oracle, and it does because it really relies heavily on the plant meaning, the use of the plant. So, for example, this still speaks about wonder in the guidebook, being open. And if you think about dandelion seeds, and I have a beautiful painting by an artist who created a deck of a dandelion, and you can see the seeds blowing off. And you think about that, that is like, as a kid, like how much fun was it to like pick as many and like whirl around in the wind and see all the seeds scatter. And that's also an element of abundance, right? Those seeds go far and wide, and they grow fast. They're very hardy. So it does bring in the traditional meaning, but in a different way. And actually, I feel like I jumped ahead. So let's get into the guidebook a little bit, since I will be referencing it throughout. So in the guidebook, there's a dedication, acknowledgments, introduction. It talks about what or who an Herbcrafter is. It talks about the deck. There's the cards and the correspondences. And then it goes into the major and the minor arcana. This deck was structured by number or suit, as you can see here. So all the aces were grouped together, all the twos, threes, so on and so forth. Then it shares some information about using the deck, connecting with the herbs, crafting activities, and then talks about the creator and shares the bibliography. In this deck, the suits for the court cards are renamed, and I love it. There's the hijas, which are daughters, adelitas, warriors, madres, mothers, and curanderas, which are the healers. I love, love, love the court cards in this deck because the hands, let me show you real quick. I know I'm jumping all over the place. So in the hija suit, you'll see like little hands from a tiny person, right? From a toddler, a child. And then you'll see more experienced hands in the adelita, which are the warrior cards. And the madre, you can see there's a little bit more of a maturing, and there's even a more nurturing feel, whereas like this one's trying to do something. This one is working on creating. This one, you can feel like this is almost like devotional. It's mothering. And then you have the curandera, where you can see like these are the hands of an older person. And I love that it just features the hands. So yeah, we'll talk about that more. I might have to break this video up. I don't know. It just depends, because I really love this deck. I am so, so grateful for this deck. I love the size of the cards. They're a bit chunky. These are the backs. You can see all the different elements of nature. There are nuts, there are berries, there's butterflies, there's little tinctures, there's wood, there's burdock root, there's garlic cloves, there's candles. So it's just so beautiful. I appreciate the effort that was put into this deck. It is a very well thought out deck. And when I show you some of the herbs that are associated with various cards, you will understand why. Okay, so let's go back to the guidebook. So there are beautiful acknowledgments from Jovhannah and both Letitia. I'm not going to read those. Then there's an introduction to tarot. Wow, this is new to me. So it says the Herbcrafter's Tarot is very much a daughter deck of the Gaian Tarot, Joanna's first deck. In the Herbcrafter's Tarot, we expand on Jovhannah's Gaian philosophy while focusing on botanicals. I will say that the Gaian Tarot is on my deck wish list, and now I kind of like want it like right now because I want to see how the decks connect with each other. So I'll go back to the top. So it says tarot is a game that invites contemplation of an encounter. It offers opportunity to stir the players and experiences in the cauldron of life. Tarot and herbs, tools of the seer, the healer, and the wise one, are natural allies. Tarot is often described as representing archetypes in human form. Similarly, we might think of herbs as archetypes in botanical forms. I can see that. Each card of the Herbcrafter's Tarot captures an encounter between humans and plants that highlights the ways our stories are inextricably linked. The cards do not simply depict plants and their properties, rather they acknowledge the partnership between humans and the botanical world. The Herbcrafter's Tarot is a celebration of tools, handicrafts, and time-honored folk skills related to herbs, trees, and weeds. It tells the story of the people as much as it tells the story of the plants. So this does draw on plants from their home locations, the Pacific Northwest and Sonoran Desert, and a light emphasis on the traditions of Letitia's Mexican-American heritage, as well as their cultic heritage that they both share. And you can see that even in like the naming of the suits. This deck, I mean, it's beyond beautiful. This is definitely like in my forever collection. It's one that I would never part with. Then it kind of talks about the spice trade, loving Mother Earth. And so let's explore who is an herb crafter. An herb crafter is an aficionada of the botanical realm. She's in love with plants and longs to know them more deeply. Her approach is driven by a playful wild spirit. The herb crafter embraces the plant world as her teacher and friend through observation in botany, gardening and wildcrafting, medicine and kitchen craft, fiber arts, weaving, art and magic. So all the ways, someone that just really embraces plants and uses them in her life. She recognizes herself as part of nature. I love that. And she seeks reciprocity in all things. Through a relationship with the botanical world, she learns how plants and people can be of service to one another. So this is a traditional deck. It has 78 cards, 22 in the suit of spirit or the major arcana, and it follows the herb crafter's journey as she meets the wilderness and learns to cultivate a garden for herself and one for the world. I think that is a beautiful like story of like the fool's journey. There's the minor arcana. So there's air, fire, water, and earth. So again, it really focuses on the elements of nature. So it says the tools of the herb crafter are bowlines in the suit of air, mortars and pestles in the suit of fire, kettles in the suit of water, and baskets in the suit of earth. The suits also represent skills acquired on the journey. So air correlates with learning, which resonates, right? Fire, creating, nourishing water, and giving earth. So I love that, like, this deck is so well thought out. I love it. So the minor arcana shows the everyday activities of the herb crafter. She stands outside this frame, and we experience her life from the plant's perspective. I love that. That's a very unique way of looking at the tarot. We find her walking in nature, growing a cultivated garden, crafting medicine with fire and water, or creating legacy tools for the future. We chose the herbs for each suit according to how their medicine is acquired. The suit of air honors the medicine that comes from noticing, observing the plants as they are. They show tall, sword-like plants outside. Fire celebrates alchemy of herb crafting. It shows busy scenes making tinctures and potions. Water emphasizes water-based medicine, showing baths and teas. And the suit of earth features plants that are used to make legacy tools, showing baskets and fiber arts. So even the numbers in the suits were chosen according to how they contribute to the ecosystem, which I think is just phenomenal. So one is going to be, number one would be dooryard herbs and weeds. 2 are plants that attract pollinators and or feed the animals, which plays on to being about partnership and balance. 3, plants that are easy to grow. They're easy to work with, that communal feel. 4, plants used for borders and edges, because 4 is usually about like security and stability. So you're creating boundaries around yourself with the plants. 5, I love this. 5 are plants that are listed as endangered or threatened by United Plant Savers. So 5 is the suit of conflict, chaos, kind of like destruction. So to see that integrated into the deck is just phenomenal. 6 are abundantly producing plants. 7, ancient trees. 8, root medicine. 9, fruit trees, beautiful blossoming abundance. 10, cover crops and composting plants. So I'll go back to the people cards in a bit. I don't want to keep going on, but then it just goes on to talk about those cards and how they how those suits go. And in the back of the deck, there are some spreads. I have not used any of the spreads, but it did show like how to use the deck. You can pull a card a day, ask a question, build a story, ways to connect with the herbs, invite an encounter, find the plant in nature, learn the science behind it, create, play with the plants, make remedies, honor the stories. I really love that. Honoring the stories, researching correspondences, being curious about it. And then it talks about reversals, whether or not you choose to read them or not to read them. And then it goes into some of these amazing spreads. Okay, and then these are crafting activities. It talks about elixirs, flower essences, honey. I love, love, love infusing honey. Incense, kombucha, oil, oxymel, palm tent. There's a lot in here in the back on ways to work with the plants. Okay, so enough intro. So we talked about the beautiful dandelions on the full card. Next, we move to the sunflower, the magician. And then you can see the figure 8, the luminesques there. And then you have the different tools, the kettles, the pestle and mortar and pestle. I could not get that out. The baskets and the bowlings there. And I feel like that is like a no-brainer. The sunflowers are magical, right? They grow towards the sun. They are just phenomenal. I love sunflower seeds, even though they're not as good anymore. And so the wisdom on this card talks about unleashing your magic, radiating power and potency from one seed 1,000. And it talks about the power of manifestation. All the information necessary to create life is contained in the seeds, yet it's the element that makes the sunflower grow. And it talks about how wind strengthens the stalk, water feeds it, fire is converted to energy by the leaves, photosynthesis, and then the earth anchors the roots. So I thought that was really beautiful to see that from the sunflower, how it uses all of the elements around it in order to grow. And then we have the High Priestess, mugwort. There's like a little sleeping pouch, a dream pouch. Mugwort is great for dreams, intuition, among other things. I love a good mugwort tea blend. And they're here crafting a dream pillow using mugwort. And there's some rose hips in there as well. Look at the artwork. Like, this is colored pencil, and I mean, oh my gosh, it is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. So this just talks about intuition, awakening your dreams, acknowledging your visions, and kind of also keeping it close to heart too. And then we have the Empress with the rose. So there's a lot in this picture. So you can see the leaves of the rose and little buds and petals there. There's also a beautiful honeycomb right there as well. And almost like a mala. I think those are those rose hips. Let me see. Yep, juicy rose hips. There's red chiles, the flame, the heat. And then this represents the Great Mother. So that is a rosary. So this feels very devotional, very beautiful. Healing the heart heals the world. I love that. That's such a beautiful passageway. Embody sensuality in bold, vibrant ways. It talks about creativity, letting abundance flourish. And I think that's beautiful. And then, oh, I didn't notice, but yeah, there is a crown right there above the honey heart. I like how this is so minimal and it didn't focus on the rose, yet still was able to weave in the aspects of rose and what that represents, which is like beauty, love, abundance, creativity. Think about all the different colors and shapes and sizes of roses. And then next we have the Emperor. I love like all the structure of this beautiful altar space. You can see the little hemlock pine cone, well, I guess not pine cones, the little cones from the tree, branches, just all arranged very beautifully, almost like a snowflake there in the middle. Very beautiful Emperor card. I feel like the structure there, and it talks about building strong boundaries. And what I like about this is it talks about hemlock is something that's used to build homes. So it's the aspect or element of that is that it helps you to build a solid future. It helps you to build structure, boundaries, home. And this also talks about trusting your boundaries. So whereas in a traditional tarot deck, the Emperor is more about leading and being an authority, this is almost like protecting the energy that you've cultivated here with the Empress. So it kind of balances out that masculine and feminine energy. Even look how like this card, the Empress, like you can see the softness in it, where in this card there's more lines. There's still, and it still brings in the aspect of the traditional meaning of the Emperor, you know, about structure, being a little more rigid. And like, even if you look at this, like this could be like, like a battle plan. So still having that aspect of leadership there as well. And it also has these yellow rose petals. So I think that's super beautiful. And those are hemlock cones, of course. So one of the things that the guidebook says is that hemlock is an important part of a healthy ecosystem. And that is how it is kind of like a leader, because it creates conditions for other plants to thrive. So it still pulls in that aspect of leadership. Cacao. I pulled this in one of my daily readings. Let me see if I can find it. And I really appreciate this ceremonial card. You can see the cocoa nibs, the cacao, there's the chile, there's some cinnamon, and just everything is frothy. And I like that you can see there's two containers there. So I feel that there's like, of course you're sharing it, but like there's one big offering to spirit, to the divine feminine, but then you also have the cup there from which you're drinking. And I just really appreciated this card. Let me see if I can find the card pull where I wrote about this card, because to me it was so beautiful in the message. So this is very much a sacred ceremonial ritual, or that's how cacao was used. And it was a very, very sacred process. So when I was researching this card, because a lot of times if there's something that I'm not totally familiar with, then I will look into it and just get a better understanding of it. Oh, it's taken too long to pull up. Okay, so I won't do that. But typically cacao is prepared by, in a true ceremony, by like a shaman or like an elder. Like it's not just like go get some chocolate and you, oops, my phone just fell, melt it or put it in a cup. Like there's a process. And the Hierophant represents wisdom. So in order to do this, right, you have to know the process. It's not just, oh, I'm gonna make some, you know, cacao today. Like there's a process, there's a sacred knowledge that goes along with that ritual. So I really appreciated seeing that in this card. And this is about learning the sacred rituals. And if you know them, then also teaching them as well. And it also talks about how, you know, true cacao is beneficial for the health, not necessarily the chocolate that we get out of the store, which I thought was beautiful. And so I'm going to read what the guidebook says here. It says, spiritual teaching must speak authentically to reach the heart, but some things must be revealed slowly. This process is not something that can be rushed. When you are learning from the Hierophant or a teacher, it takes time. You may not absorb everything overnight. When you are becoming the wise one, the teacher, the Hierophant, that also takes time. So there's a beautiful element of like giving and receiving here, and also going into the wise authority that the Hierophant has. And I feel like it truly builds like on the Emperor's energy. You've built up that foundation of what your truth is, and you have gained that wisdom. And now that you've become a leader, you're in a position where you're able to share and disseminate that wisdom with others. I think that's so beautiful. And it also says, remain devoted to mystery, yet have respect for ceremony, which I think needs to be said. Often in the traditional tarot, this card is about systems, religion, even ceremony. And I think, yeah, just coming back to a place of reverence and respect, which I really love seeing the cacao used on this card, was just perfect. So there is the beautiful sacred cacao. The Lovers. Okay, so this is Hawthorn shown here on the Lovers card. And what I like about this is, like, this side, we have the berries here, and you can see that there are thorns. There's a protective element. There's also masculine and feminine coming together. This is a sacred symbol. Let me see, what is it? I can't think of the name. The Vesica Pisces. And like, they talk about this like being the space of potential, where when you're in alignment, right, you have full access to your masculine and feminine energies. You can create anything. Like, you move into a space of limitlessness when you limitlessness. Where are my words? You move into a space where you're able to do all things. So this represents divine union. I think it's very beautiful. And yeah, I think it's also beautiful because there's an element of protecting each other, protecting oneself, protecting your masculine energy, protecting your feminine energy, using them in harmony and being in a beautiful place of alignment where you're not allowing yourself to give or anyone to just continually take. There's a beautiful balance of love and harmony that's shown in this card. What I like about this, it is so simple. It's so simple, but very powerful. Another aspect, like when we think about love and being in relationships, they're not always, they're going to be challenges. And I think those thorns can, represent some of the challenges that you're going to face, yet you're still connected and you're still able to move through them, even when you're both in different seasons, right? The hawthorn, this is the same plant, the same tree, the same thing, but they're in different forms. So I thought that was really interesting as well. So I have not yet pulled this card in a reading. So this is the Chariot, represented by cedar. And I'm just looking at it because it's a very interesting take. So I like the circle, the wheel. It almost reminds me of the Wheel of Fortune. And so you have cedar at the top, cedar at the bottom. So this is what they're saying is like a mandala created by the leaves from the tree. And it says, life is a forward-moving gift. Cedar is both a spiritual vessel used in sacred ceremony and a literal vessel when used for making canoes. So that's where the movement comes in, is that this tree is used, the bark is used to make canoes. And so it talks about how they are strong and flexible, but they're able to carry you forward, not only spiritually, but also physically. So that is beautiful. And then garlic. Oh my gosh, I love garlic. Honey-infused garlic is really good to take for ailments. You can see like the rose petals there around it. So garlic is on the strength card, and it talks about courage. Garlic is also one of the, I call it like a power herb. Garlic, ginger, what's the other one? I'm missing one. Maybe even onion, because it carries heat, right? And not everybody likes garlic. Garlic can be very strong, very overpowering. But this talks about courage, and it says planting garlic around the roots of roses strengthens the leaves. I did not know that, and so that's good. So that is where these elements of the rose petals come in. So not only can garlic be used in the garden where it grows, it can also be beneficial to our immune system and our bodies. So like garlic is one of the things that you can use for power and igniting passion, whether you're drinking it as a tea or using it in magical working. So garlic is right there, and taking it down with honey makes it a little more palatable. So this is Usnea for the Hermit. This is another card that I haven't pulled, so I can see lots of feathers there, and the wreath with the candle in the center. There's different feathers inside of the wreath. There's some crystal, quartz crystal points. And it looks like this is sitting on snow, just kind of by itself. So this is an offering, and it talks about rest and stillness. So with the Hermit, when you're making an offering, maybe you're sitting and you're meditating, or you've just left it there for it to do whatever it needs to do. Oh, wow. Okay, so Usnea, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, is found in, it's called Old Man's Beard. I think I've seen some of this growing. That might have been something different though. It grows long and healthy on trees where the air is clean. And it talks about finding your mountain, asking for guidance from nature. So the Hermit comes in the fact that you would be in a place that is kind of purified in a sense, and you go and you listen, maybe you're meditating, you created a beautiful ritual somewhere where you can just sit and be still and kind of be in hermit mode. So that's a very interesting depiction of the Hermit card. And this is the Wheel of Fortune, the kitchen garden. There are lots of, let's see what's in there. Basil, lemon verbena, sage, some onions. It looks like clove, but I'm not sure. So this is the garden, the Wheel of Fortune. It's all about change. I love that they're using different herbs in each section that correspond with a season. So they said violet for Astara, lemon verbena for summer solstice, basil for Ma, sage for the autumn equinox, so on and so forth. And then there's the compass. So you can see the wheel there and just the different phases of the wheel or the cycle of the year. And it talks about change, the cycles of nature. So during different seasons, right, you're going to plant different things based upon the environment and what can grow at that time during that season. And also what I love is that, you know, this speaks of kitchen garden. So these are things that you can go out and pluck when you need to use them in your cooking or your magical concoction. So it's always there when you need it, but you do have to adjust according to the season and what's going on. Now this is just perfect. This is cannabis on the Justice card. And I'm pretty sure we all know why it is there. Justice is about truth. It's about balance. It's about law. It's about karma. And here it talks about making informed decision and really considering also the consequences of the things that you make. So a lot of these cards feature mandalas, and it's using the cannabis leaves there with the Declaration of Independence written on hemp paper. There's a cannabis salve, looks like a tincture and some capsules, so all the things, and then you can see the actual hemp twine there as well. Whew. This card is heavy, but not, I'm just going to read what the book says. The personal is political. The personal is political. Clarity and understanding are necessary before making a decision. Until the 1900s, 75% of the world's paper was made from hemp. A campaign targeting people of color criminalized marijuana use and shifted popular opinion, leading to the perception of cannabis as a dangerous drug. This has been a medicine for ever. This has been used for medicinal purposes, for spiritual purposes, forever. The loss of a valued remedy for pain, mental illness, as well as a sustainable source of clothing and paper is minor compared to the continued impact the campaign has on people of color. Like, they went in on this card. When I saw this, and I've got chills now, even just like holding this card and reading from the guidebook about it. But this like absolutely made me fall in love with the deck. And this is what I mean, how well thought out the deck is, and how the correspondences that they created really brings the herbs as an archetype to life. And it also ties it into the traditional meaning of the actual tarot card. So even if you knew nothing about tarot, but you knew everything about botanics, you could read from this deck by thinking about the quality of that particular herb or plant or tree, what it represents, how you can use it, whether it's culinary, medicinally, spiritually, like, whew, y'all. Okay. The recent legalization of marijuana further complicates the issue and does. The unfolding story of cannabis teaches about imbalances of power. When life asks for your ruling, arm yourself with information from all sides, stand on the side of the truth, and fight for what is right. I like this because you know how they usually, when we talk about justice, it's like justice takes a blind eye, or, you see Lady Justice wearing a blindfold. I don't think justice is supposed to be blindfolded. I think that you need to see, hear, and know everything that's going on to really come to that point. But yeah, let me just digress. So I want to share some things. Crafting with justice. Claim responsibility for your actions. Record your commitments on hemp paper. Consider cannabis products for healing. Do research. Talk to expert. Make an informed choice. Create flags with messages of justice using hemp fabric. Thank you for this. This is beautiful. The Hanged One, burdock root. So this is why I was like, okay, I need to do this today. So in my my daily reading today, I asked for what did my soul need to know. I pulled an oracle card that was growth, and then I pulled the Hanged One to even dive even deeper into that. So you can kind of see there's the burdock root, and it kind of has this quote unquote leg crossing, as we would see in a traditional tarot card. There's the burdock root tea, there's a leaf, and then you can see these runes that are actually made from burdock as well. And then there is the candle in the table, or on the table. And so burdock root talks about what did I say? It was like, so for me, the Hanged Man is about the sacred pause. It's about pausing, but this is also talking about, seeing challenges as opportunities for growth. And I think when we're able to stop and pause and reflect, that is when we can see things from a different perspective. So that's what a lot of this talks about. Interestingly enough, about burdock, it says that where it is present can often indicate where land is lacking nutrients. And it talks about how the beautiful leaves, when they fall or break down, it improves the soil but burdock is no longer able to thrive there, but it creates the conditions for other, for, gosh, what am I trying to say? For other plant life to thrive. So even though burdock kind of sacrifices itself in a way, it's flipping things, right? They say like flip the script on a difficult situation. Burdock tea is said to help like the liver and eliminating toxins, which is amazing. And it talks about change, like being a long-term commitment. So there's this element of surrender that comes through in this card for me. Even like with the hangman, it's all about surrender. It's about listening, waiting, being patient, before acting or before moving. And I thought that, you know, right before the death card, which is all about transformation and change, it is good to pause and reflect, because sometimes if we just jump into the change, you don't really have the awareness or the knowledge that you need to really move forward. So I thought that was really beautiful. And then like being able to like thrive in harsh conditions. Sometimes we don't need to fight things. You just need to pause and be still and look for solutions in that space in order to grow, which is where you then move into the death card of transformation. I like this so much. It's beautiful. Candles and the mandala with the skull, very beautiful. So this is about endings, transformation. There's also an element of the ancestors. Like when I look at this card, it reminds me of Santa Muerte and like the Day of the Dead, All Souls Day, all of those things. So this to me, it's almost like a ritual honoring what was, and then you can see the beautiful butterflies surrounding it as well. So like honoring your ancestors, honoring the things and the people and the places that you're needing to let go of. Let me see, what does it say? Does it say anything about marigold? It doesn't, not really. Oh, it does. So it says the rich scent and vibrant color of the marigold is said to lead the souls of the beloved dead home, so we may celebrate them and the lives that they live. So that's where the marigolds come in to call in one's ancestors in celebration, in love and support. And you can see the butterflies being drawn to it, which I thought was very beautiful too. So then we have Temperance, represented by Camellia. And you can see the teapot there. There's tea brewing. Teas are in the cup. Then there's a bowl of dry leaves, loose tea. So Temperance is about, again, balance. And I see like with the tea, you're stopping to savor the moment, bringing things back into balance. And it says a tea ceremony is an act of mindfulness. Even like just when I make tea for myself and I sit down to enjoy the cup and just savor it, there is something just very ceremonial and just peaceful and balancing about that. So it talks about the ritual becoming holy alchemy that affects change, which I thought was very beautiful, coming out of the death card and moving into this space where you're able to like really see and transform the changes. And one of the things that I thought was beautiful is that camellia is the oldest, most widely used botanical in history. So it also talks about letting ancient practices inspire fresh ideas. And so with that being said, I think too, there's a lot to be said about really honoring those practices, right? Bringing in what, you know, is sacred and honoring that even in the now, aligning like past and present for your best and highest good, I thought was really interesting take on the Temperance card. Next, we have the Devil. So this card I found to be super interesting. Let me fix this light a little bit. There we go. Hopefully it doesn't move again. So with this card, it shows a blackberry pie. You can see some of the leaves from the bush, and someone made a very delicious pie. One of the things about blackberries is that they can be an invasive species, and so where they grow, it can kind of just take over and prevent anything else from growing. Even still, the blackberries can be really, really good and juicy and yummy. But when I was looking at this, I was like, wow, that's a really interesting choice for the devil's card, but of course, who wouldn't want a piece of blackberry pie, right? It talks about how, you know, the berries are sweet, but the brambles are sharp, so you want to be careful. And then I also thought about like overindulgence with the pie, like eating just one piece of pie, or even having the patience to wait for the pie to cool off after it's come out of the oven. And it says, do not become ensnared by the sweet fruit of pleasure while ignoring your true needs. And then it referenced Sleeping Beauty, how the brambles kind of covered over everything, protecting them. So like they can be protective, but they can also be very limiting. And it's something that you just want to be mindful that you don't get bound or caught up to the point that it cuts off your access to everything else. So that was the devil. And then we have the tower, which is the mushroom, okay? I love how mushrooms, they can just spring up what looks like overnight, but underground, there's always a lot happening, like the mycelium that's always there. And then eventually a mushroom may or may not pop up depending on the conditions, if the conditions are right. And I like this because the tower card always like represents change. And we think that, oh, this mushroom just got here, but there's always something going on underneath the surface where we're only seeing like the end result when the mushroom comes out of the ground. There's this documentary I watched on Netflix called Magical Fungi or something like that. And it talked about how there's like the network of mycelium that is connected to the trees, and it's always there. And that is where what mushrooms grow out of, and then they grow and they become spores and they're able to spread and all of those things. It was very, very beautiful. So this talks about, you know, sudden change, which also leads to upheaval, destruction. Typically in the tower card, we see the tower and it's struck by like lightning and it's coming apart. People are jumping out of windows. Sometimes there's fire. It's a very chaotic card. But I love what they say in the guidebook is that mushrooms are the instigators of transformation in the forest. They spark foundational healing. They are also decomposers. They eat other things. They can convert materials that are no longer useful into something useful. So when we think about composting and bringing nutrients into the soil, they affect change in so many ways. So I thought that was very beautiful by featuring mushrooms as agents of change in this deck. And then we have the star. I loved this card. This is so beautiful. So I believe like these, the cottonwood is floating on water that is reminiscent of also the cosmos, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Yeah, deep blue water reflects the stars in the night sky. So it is kind of floating on the water. And of course, the star speaks about hope, faith, being guided in the dark. And cottonwood, okay, so this was beautiful to me. So cottonwood was, where did I find that out? I did some research on cottonwood trees, and they were used to help people like find their way home. Let me find that, because that to me was really, really interesting. Okay, let me see if I can pull up this. Give me just a second. I really enjoy this deck. I think I'm just going to get through the majors today, and then I will go back and revisit at a later time the rest of the cards so that this video doesn't get too long. Where's my cottonwood that I pulled? Almost there. There it is. Okay. So, Curandera, Damiana, Star. Okay, so yeah, when I researched this, it brought tears to my eyes because I learned that indigenous peoples of America referred to it as the birthplace of the stars. They saw the cottonwood as being a bridge between heaven and earth. I just knew I had to share this because That just touched me so, so much. So what you're seeing here is the cottonwood tree. These are the leaves, some stems or twigs, and the nuts or seeds in a beautiful like mandala or offering. And like this really like just helped me to understand the way that the creator of this deck, Jovhannah Colbert-Powell and Letitia Guthrie, really put a lot of thought into it. It just solidified the deep connection that I have with this deck. And that was not mentioned in here. I actually did a little bit of research on the cottonwood and found that out. And so in the guidebook, it says that the cottonwood trunks are marked by scars from harsh weather, but the leaves shimmer like golden lights against the stark blue sky, which is very interesting. And it says your wounds may run deep, but wholeness still shines from within. So I thought that was very beautiful. Even though they didn't make mention of it being like birthplace of the stars, like that, learning that and seeing that on the star card was just an amazing, amazing connection. So then here we have the moon, which is represented by Datura. And let's see, there's a large crystal bowl that's filled with water sitting on a cloth, and there are 8 flowers around the bowl. And then you can see the progression of the flower budding and blossoming. And then there's like moonbeams that are shining or reflecting into the water. So this speaks about intuitive awakening. Datura has a long history of magic and lore with witches and cunning folk. The seeds and flowers have been used to induce alternative states of consciousness. So this is about turning towards curiosity, going into the darkness, exploring the darkness. It's also a toxic plant, which is interesting. It says Datura is a toxic plant whose ingestion can quickly lead to a number of permanent damaging effects. Not something you want to consume. So these bloom with the moonlight, and it's all about like witnessing the magic that happens in the dark. And it can be scary, right? Like things in the dark can hurt you and can be toxic. So that was very interesting to see that this is actually toxic and not something to really be consumed. St. John's wort. Oh, such a beautiful, beautiful plant. Seeing that here as the sun is really interesting. This has been used for so many things. So the sun is all about happiness. It's about positivity. It's about joy. It's about radiating your inner light. And so that's what this talks about. It's about livelihood. St. John's wort is a mood enhancer. This is something that I learned about when I was dealing with depression and found some St. John's, was it not a tincture, it was a not a I know it was like a homeopathic remedy. It wasn't the Bach flowers, I just can't think of the name of it, but it's very helpful for lifting your mood, which I think is so beautiful to see that here. You can see beautiful colors on there which reminiscent of the sun, and this is all about shining, stepping into your sparkle, being happy and uplifting. And then we have beautiful Tulsi, awakening, instead of, which would traditionally be the judgment card. I like awakening. This is very beautiful. I love the mandala here. I have some tapestries with a similar mandala. There is the mala beads here, the bowl of Tulsi, and it talks about sacred service. This is a ancient herb, something that's been used for a long time. It helps with memory, energy, releasing toxins. So this is all about committing to rituals and freeing yourself from anything that doesn't really serve you, elevating, right? You're awakening to your potential, you're awakening to your spirituality and going deeper into that, releasing anything that holds you back and spreading your good work. It says devotion to your holy work spreads goodness to all. And then we have the world, which is so beautiful. Look at all the colors of the rainbow, the butterflies. You can see in each corner, there is elements of air with the feathers. There's water with the seashells. There's fire with the candle here. And there's earth with the crystals. And I pulled this card, so I wanted to see if I had any notes on it. Let me see, where are we? I think it's over here. Yep, there it is, the world. So this is about completion. This is about feeling whole. The colors really captivated me. I love the monarch butterfly, and it made me think about the metamorphosis that butterflies go, that caterpillars go through. Like once they enter the cocoon, all the magic happens and the butterfly comes out, right? After your devotion to your sacred rituals, boom, you are transformed and elevated. You are complete at one with yourself. So one of the things I looked up, because I was like, I wonder, does it hurt for caterpillars to become butterflies? And it doesn't. Unlike our journey in life, sometimes we go through things that hurt to help us elevate and evolve. But there's an enzyme that is secreted that prevents them from feeling the pain. So imagine you disintegrating into like goo, like that would not feel good. And then when it's time for the butterfly to come out of the cocoon, there is a struggle. But that struggle is needed because it helps them strengthen and dry off their wings so that they can fly. If they don't go through the struggle, they're not going to be able to fly. So I thought that this was beautiful. So the world is correlated with Pachamama, Great Mother, or the Earth Mother. And it's really about knowing that you are complete, right? Earth, air, water, fire. All of these elements are within you. And then we have spirit here at the middle, like you are one, like everything is one. So this card means like completion, things coming full circle, success, fulfillment, all of those things. And I also associate this with oneness and elevation. So that is the beautiful major arcana of the Herbcrafter's tarot deck. It's so beautiful. All of the art, the detail. I love the texture that the color pencil leaves. The way that this deck is so thought out, from the artwork, from the presentation of the herbs on the card, from the different elements woven in with it. There's so much medicine and magic in this deck. If I had to choose, the Hierophant is definitely one of my favorites. Justice card is definitely a favorite. Death. I love the Tower, okay, it's the Star, like all of them basically, yeah. All right, my friends, that is it. Thank you so much for taking a peek at the Herbcrafter's Tarot with me. I know this is not a new deck, but it is fairly new to me, and it's something that I really have been loving working with. It's been so beautiful. So one of the things that I am doing instead of buying new decks is working with the decks that I have. And I'm trying to decide what's going to be the next deck that I study in my collection. But so far, I'm really loving the Herbcrafter's Tarot. It is awakening something within me as well, helping me to reconnect to, because I was always like, well, I don't really know. I know a lot about herbs, and going through this deck, it just is a reminder of the knowledge that I have. And if there are some, botanics that I encounter that I don't know of, then I just go and research them. So I can't wait to share with you the rest of this deck in another video. All right, my loves, have a beautiful, beautiful day. Thank you for tuning in. Peace.